Hi, I am Abhishek, working as I am principal architect with a healthcare organization, and today I'm going to talk about certifying multiple personas within a single identity cube using SailPoint IQ. So first, I'm going to explain the use case. So it is a setup of large healthcare organization with over 300,000 identity cubes and over 500,000 personas and 20,000 persona managers. So when I say 500,000 personas, so in an healthcare, it is pretty common to have an identity having multiple personas. So there are less identity cubes but multiple personas, and I'm going to explain it in the next slide, but more. And the use case is to how to stage and certify certification for this many personas in bulk, and then activate the certifications in bulk. And the last part of the use case is generating the report of those personas. So in this slide, it basically represents how our identity cube is set up. We followed the model of having multiple personas in single identity cube, which means all the authoritative sources and all the application accounts will show up on the same identity cube. So in this diagram, on the left hand side, what you see is the personas, and right hand side you see the application access. So personas, for example, a person can have persona from an authoritative source, for example, SAP, Oracle, Workday, or a person can be a non-persona authoritative source from a CSV feed file from a non-employee record management system, or any other authoritative systems which manages personas. So in this model, all the personas are shown on the same identity cube, and all the personas have the persona attributes attached to that personas. So in case a persona has a different persona manager, so the persona manager is also attached to the same identity, the link attached to the identity cube. And in this presentation, what I'm going to talk about is how do we certify this different personas using the persona manager or on the links. The challenge here is SailPoint out of the box do not recognize the persona managers because this is an attribute on the link. It typically works, the SailPoint out of the box certification works on the manager identified on the identity cube. So yeah, let's go more detail into it. So certification options. So as I explained in the previous slide, a manager may have multiple personas from same identity or multiple identities. So this is a very common setup in healthcare organizations, specifically where a person has multiple roles. A person can be having different roles and responsibilities within the same organization at different time or different days. And out of the box, SailPoint certifications are not able to understand this persona model for launching the certifications. Now to certify this, in SailPoint we have two options. So one is targeted certification, which was a new addition to the SailPoint IQ version from 8.1 onwards, and another one is advanced certification. Both works pretty similarly. The difference is the target certifications, the filters are set up from the UI, and it allows the flexibility of setting up the certification from the UI. Advanced certification works similar as targeted certifications. Populations are defined as filters and added to the certifications, and it's easy to use a template when there is a bulk generation involved. So for this solution, we have used the advanced certification option because the requirement was to generate the certifications in bulk, and there were some working examples available for advanced certifications. So the solution flow. So this is the entire solution flow for this design. The first is prepare the bulk input file or the bulk input for the certifications. Second step is generate the population filters which will be used in the advanced certifications. Third stage is stage and activate the certification. Stage the certifications with the population filters created. And fourth step is activate the certification. So the entire solution is divided into 4 different parts. So we develop each part one by one, and then finally we combine everything to complete the solution. So now I will go into the solution components one by one. So the first and important step of the solution component is providing the input to the certification generation process. Now this step is required because in our identity persona model, where multiple personas are present on single identity, SailPoint doesn't understand the individual persona attribute on the persona links. So we need to find a way to input the persona managers to the certification process. So this way can be a UI based drop down, it can be a file upload utility in SailPoint, or in our case what we have done is we have used a CSV file because we wanted to generate certifications in bulk for thousands of users. So when you decide what input parameters you want for a certification along with persona manager, so that will be your first step, and based on that step you are going to create your CSV file. Processing the CSV file can be a simple custom rule or a Java task in SailPoint IIQ bean shell, which will process your CSV file, maybe do some validations like error handling or sanity check on the CSV file, and once the CSV file is processed, we move to the next step. So another solution component in this solution is certification definition template. So certification definition template is a master template which defines the overall certification. So for example, it defines how your certification will behave. It defines the total duration of the certification, how long the certification will stay active, what will be the remediation phase, what will be the challenge phase. So as per your requirements, you can define your certification template, and then this can serve as your base template on which all your certifications can be based. You can also define the total duration of the reminders or any escalations you want to send during the certification, to whom you want to send escalations. You want to copy certain people after a certain number of days, let's say 14 days or 15 days, nobody responses. So all those template you can define in advance in a template. Also you can define the behavior of the certification, like do you want to allow bulk operations, do you want to allow forwarding operations in the certification, what would be the default name of your certification item, do you want to add any certification tags. So all of those can be defined in the certification template in advance. Defining certification tags is very helpful in reporting, specifically for use cases where we are generating thousands of certifications in bulk. The tags really help in any kind of custom reporting, advanced analytics search, or any other further use cases you want to configure. The third component of this solution is creating the population filter. So we have defined the CSV file, we have an input available in the CSV file, we have defined a certification template. Now we need to create the populations for which the certification should be launched. So population in SailPoint is called a group definition object, which is basically a query which runs when it is executed in SailPoint. So it doesn't store any data, it's just a filter string, and it queries SailPoint identities based on the filter string. For example, the sample query that I have shown here in the screen. It queries an identity cube where the persona manager is Abhishek and the persona is active, and persona can be from authoritative source 1, authoritative source 2. So when this filter is executed, SailPoint will pull all the identity cubes where Abhishek is the manager of the persona, either persona 1 or persona 2, and it will group all those identities in single query. And that's what basically we need for our use case, because we want to group all the identities from same persona manager in single certification. And generating this population filter is the key to the solution. So moving to the next component. So exclusion rule. So exclusion rule is an optional component. It may or may not be required in your case. It can be again a generic rule which is applicable to all the certifications. It is required when you group all the personas from a single identity cube using the population filter. But if you still want to exclude certain personas, you can use this exclusion rule. The exclusion rule has can exclude item based on items, can exclude item based on certification items inside the certification. It can read the attributes from the certification definition template also. So in our use case, for example, a person have 3 personas from different authoritative sources. 2 of the personas are from location 1, and let's say the third persona is from location 2. Now in my certification, if I want to include only the personas from location 1, and I don't want to include the personas from location 2, then I can use this exclusion rule and set the criteria in the exclusion rule that do not include the personas from location 2. Okay. So the next step in the solution is clone and stage the certifications. So once we have all the components defined, like generating the CSV file, creating the population filter based on the CSV file, defining the certification template, defining the certification attributes, defining the exclusion rules, the final step is to create an actual certification from the template that we have defined. And to do this, the first step is, this is a sample code that is on the screen, is clone the template that you have defined using an out-of-the-box API called XML Object Factory. This will clone the certification that you have defined with all the attributes we have created in the previous slides. Also, during the cloning the certification, we have to set the unique name of the certification, and we also have to define set the population which we want to use in the certification. We will also set which exclusion rules we are going to use as part of the certification. And once we have defined all these things, we will use an out-of-the-box executor called certification manager to execute the clone. So what they will do is, what this cloning task will do is, it will create a certification based on all the attributes they have defined, and it will either create it in a staged state or it will create it in an activated state. For our use case, we have defined the templates to be stay in the staged state. So once the certifications are created, we will go ahead and verify whether the certification is created correctly or not. All the users who should be part of the certifications are there or not, the duration is correct or not. And then once we are ready, we'll activate the certification. So once we have done all of these activities and run the clone command, the certification will be staged. Moving on to the next step, which is the final step of the solution, which is activating the certification. Now since we are doing a bulk operation for this use case, because we have thousands of manager, we wanted a solution for us to activate a certification in bulk. So let's say if you have 1,000 certification, and if you have to activate using out of the box way, you would have to open each and every certification and click on activate one by one. But we wanted a solution where there is a list of certification staged available, and then we can just activate them in bulk. So for this, one of the option is we can create a custom task definition, and in the custom task definition we can show all the staged certification name that we want to activate. For example, in the sample that I've shown in the screen here, there is a filter string that I've used, and the parameter called phased equal to staged, and then there is a help key and the name certification name. So what we will do is it will create a drop down of a multi-select type with all the stage certification showing up in the drop down, and it will allow user to click all the certifications that they want to activate. And once they click submit, the next step is to activate the certification. To activate the certification, once we click submit on this task, all the input will go to the backend rule of the task. And to activate the certification, again there is an out of the box API available from SailPoint that is called activate certification group. What it will do is this task will take each certification input one by one. It will activate the certification group. The important thing to note here is the activate certification group is done at the group level, at a certification group level. So when we activate a certification, we have to activate it at a group level, so the entire certification workflow moves forward. And there is an out of the box task available to do this, so we just use that, and using that we were able to successfully activate the certification in bulk. Also, I'm going to quickly talk about certain certification objects which are pretty important if you need to implement a complex scenario like this or custom certification solution like this. So to do any custom coding or any bean shell coding with the certification objects, it is very important to understand the certification objects hierarchy in SailPoint. So in the certification objects hierarchy in SailPoint, the first object at the top is certification group. Under certification group, there is certification definition. Under certification definition, there is certification. Under certification certification, there is certification entity, and then there is certification entity. So in case of our persona based certification example, the certification entity is the identity, and certification item are the various personas. And our filter works on both entity and item level, and our exclusion rule excludes the items, the personas that we want to include or we don't want to include from the certification item. So understanding this hierarchy of objects is very important, and it really helps in writing the custom solution. So I think thank you very much. And if any questions, please send me on the developer community. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.